And hello again. Welcome to the Bob Donewald Show. I'm Al Shepston. Well, the Redbirds are playing pretty good basketball under head coach Bob Donewald. 6-5 on the season, but more importantly, 6-2 over the last 8 games. Have beaten some pretty good teams, including Bradley Braves on Monday night, an upset in Peoria, winning by 11 points. We'll take a look at the highlights of that game, plus take a look at the player profile. Matt Taphorn will be the individual that we take a look at for today. And after that, we'll take a look at the highlights of the Iowa Hawkeye win in Oklahoma, the first round of the tournament there. Head coach Bob Donewald joins us in our studios today. We'll talk to him in depth about those topics and a little bit more, and the Missouri Valley Conference as a whole, in just a minute. And we're back with head coach Bob Donewald. The Redbirds came up with an upset win over the Bradley Braves on Monday night, and that was in Peoria. Coach, going into the game, giving your chances to win that, I would say, were extremely thin because of the talent Bradley has. I thought it was just a remarkable game for us to come up with a win like that.
I made a statement at the luncheon in Peoria the day of the game that I thought that the thing that would probably keep Bradley out of the Final Four is the fact that they don't have that dominant big man, David Robinson. And somewhere I thought along the tournament trail, and I think they'll be in the NCAA, somewhere along the tournament trail that will probably cost them. And they have exceptional athletes in that 6'7", 6'8" range. But when you get to that level, you know, oftentimes the big man will make the difference. But it is an exciting team. It's a very athletically gifted team, and I think Manuel and Hawkins are as fine a backcourt as there is in the country. I remember the Oklahoma people coming to me, the media, right after the Oklahoma game, and said to me, "Isn't this the best pair of guards that you've seen all year?" And I said, "No, there's a pair in Peoria that's better."
Wow.
And I just think Hawkins, along with Xavier McDaniel and Antoine Carr, are the 3 best players that have been in the Missouri Valley since I've been here.
We do have highlights of that game, by the way, and I thought we got off to a great start, keeping Bradley out of their transition game and keeping the period out of their offensive game. I thought was pretty super.
Al, there were, from a defensive standpoint, I thought there were 2 keys. One was the transition game, and secondly was our ability to keep Hawkins under some type of control. And we were able to do that with our switching that we did, and just kept a variety of people on him. And we're watching some buckets here, and I thought offensively it was important that we just move the ball and look for our opportunities, and when they were there, take advantage of them, but not try to force the issue. Somebody asked me in the press conference after the game, they said, "Bob, you wound the clock down. Was that purposeful?" And I said, "No." I said, we have the kind of kids that a lot of times it just takes a little bit longer because we don't have somebody with the ability for a quick offense, and when you have those kinds of kids, excellent steal right there. That's one of those things that Hawkins does so well for you. Excellent effort there by Matt. But when you have kids that are just decent players but not great players, I think it's important that they just stay with it, because a lot of times it will take them a little bit longer.
That play by Matt, I thought, was indicative of the way you stopped their transition game for the season.
We really concentrated on it throughout the week, and I remember for about 30 minutes there in Peoria last year, we controlled it, and then all of a sudden it got away from us in 4 or 5 quick buckets, and it was all over. But Matt did. I thought his leadership was very good during the course of the game. Sonny played well for us.
That's why I had that there, because I thought he did some tremendous things.
He did. He went after the ball. He got a bucket. He got a couple of free throws. He was into the game and just made a concerted effort to help us. And you know, in fact, I don't know of anybody that didn't make a concerted effort and didn't make a contribution. It was just a heck of a team win for us. Gerard was good. They even hit that 18 or 19 footer. Derek Stokes came in off the bench and really helped us, and good feed down inside to Tony right there from Matt.
You talked about overall team play. Somebody asked me, who not too familiar with the Redbirds, who's the star of the team? And I said, no one. And I think last night's game was very indicative
Absolutely,
of that.
And I think that's been traditional of our basketball teams. We've just gotten kids that play hard and try to do their very best. And when they do that, why, we have a chance to be competitive. And when they don't, we just don't have one particular player that can just carry us like a Hawkins. But it was a heck of a win for the kids, and I was really pleased.
Peterson comes up with a great play there. And matter of fact, I think I have another one where Peterson comes up with another good play right after that.
Transition was important.
Yeah.
It's another opportunity where they just weren't able to quite get the ball behind our defense and create an instant offense. And yeah, Cliff made 2 or 3 of those plays that were just very, very critical. This is the second half of the ball game here,
yes.
and a couple of times we did get caught inside a little bit, but we were always able to come back and just prevent them from scoring on us like they did a year ago.
Remember, late in the game, Jeff comes down and when we really would like to use the clock, takes a shot. I didn't think it was a particularly bad shot. He misses it. And I'll have a highlight of that, too. You said something to him I couldn't quite pick up, and he makes this shot.
No, Gerard tipped it in, but what I said to him, there was a little over a minute to go in the ball game, and I said, do we need to score? Do we need to possession of the ball and wind the clock down? And he knew the answer to it. Sonny's bucket right there. He knew the answer to it, and it was critical at that time. And you know, scorers think scoring, and if you ever take them out of that, you really hurt him. But it was one of those times when he needed to use a little bit better judgment. That was a big steal right there, and I cannot recall the last time on a pass to Hawkins we were able to step in and steal and go the distance.
Here's the play I talked about.
Yeah, right here. Just didn't need it. What we really needed, and we keep possession, and then they foul us here very shortly, is what we needed was just to let the clock run down and finish the ball game.
And that's Matt Taphorn pretty much finishing off the scoring there. Bradley Braves are now 0-1 in the conference. The Redbirds are 1-0, sitting on top of the early goings, but there's a long way to go. Final score was 85-74, an upset win in Bradley. We'll come back and look at our player profile with Matt Taphorn in just a minute.
I think the past few years my role has been more of a spot player and more of a role player on the team, and this year I think I'm going to have to assume more of a role of a scorer and just a total team leader out on the floor, whereas in the past it's been more of just spot situations where I might come in off the bench and ignite the team a little bit but not really be dependent on that much to score. But this year I think with the loss of Derek Sanders and the young team that we have, I think that people need to look to me to score more. Well, I worked a lot on it this past summer back home in high school, and I feel that coming into this season I had improved my range a couple feet at least, and coach was pretty confident in the preseason practices with my shot, so he just kind of gave me a little more freedom out there, and right now it's worked out pretty well. And hopefully it'll continue that way throughout the year. Well, going into the game, I had no idea that I'd shoot 11 three-pointers. I didn't even shoot 11 all last season. And I just felt that they were giving me the opportunity to shoot them. I was open. The first one I took, I was wide open, and it went in, and that really gave me a lot of confidence. And from there, I was just stepping up and shooting them, and it felt really good. So, I just kept shooting them throughout the night, and even the ones I missed, I felt that I was pretty open on those and that I could have made those. So I just had the feeling that night, and some nights you have that feeling where everything you shoot's going to go in, and that's just what happened that night. Well, I realized that he was a smaller guy. I think he was about 6'1", 6'2", and when he was flying by me, I took a step left. So when he came back, he'd have to come back at an angle even more. So I knew he was there, but I wasn't concentrating on him too much. I was just trying to step up and hit the shot, and it was pretty easy shot really, and all I had to do was step up and hit it. Well, I think the the other 3 teams I've played on have had a lot more people who've come off the bench and made contributions. Right now, we're a little weak in that area, and I think we need to get stronger off the bench throughout the year. I think the 4 seniors that we have have a lot of experience and know what needs to be done, but our problem right now is consistency. We're having, guys come out one night and scoring well and playing well, and then the next night, they don't show up, so to speak. And along with that, you have guys off the bench who aren't really making the contributions that they can make. So I think if we can get some more consistent play and some better bench efforts out of this team, I think we'll have a good team in the long run. Well, one year, I think it was the end of our sophomore year, he was 1/100th of a point, grade point better than me, and I think now he's moved ahead of me a little bit, but I think that we kind of push each other in that area too, because we realize that the basketball schedule and the time constraints on you are pretty rigorous, and I think we just keep pushing each other, and it's kind of a competitive situation between the 2 of us to see who gets the better grades that semester or whatever. So, it's been a really good situation all 4 years, and I've been really lucky to have a roommate like Jeff. Well, I've accepted the job in Peoria working for Price Waterhouse, and hopefully from there I will continue to grow with that firm, and it should be a good job. I worked for them this past summer, and hopefully it's a good experience for me.
The Redbirds are 6-5 on the season. The last 2 out of the 3 games have been upset wins over some pretty good teams. Sandwiched in the middle of all of that, though, was the Oklahoma game, and that was in the All-College Classic in Oklahoma. A team undefeated when you played them, still undefeated today, and has to be one of the best scoring machines I've seen ever.
They're a very quick team, Al, and they press you 40 minutes. They look to shoot quickly, but they're not an undisciplined team. I think that's a misconception. And they utilize their quickness very well, and they pressure the ball at all times, and they just created numerous problems for us, and they were just quicker the entire night, and were able to score both inside as well as out on the perimeter, and they stay with their regulars. They are deep, but they don't necessarily go very deep. And they use about 7 or 8 kids, and they can score. They score quickly, and their press is just, it was really bothersome for us.
This is the Iowa game, the game you played the night before when you beat them.
That's a big play right there, Jeff going in and scoring. And this is in the second half of the ball game, and it was in a period when we had come back on them, and one of Matt's 3-pointers. In fact, that's the first time we take the lead. We were down 16 and then came back and got the lead on them, and we just continued to play, and they get the lead back, and then he was just unbelievable. In fact, there's a stretch in the second half where I think on 4 straight possessions we get a 3-point play, and then we go a couple possessions, and then we get a couple more, and the youngster was just open, and they gave us room in order to do it, and he continued to knock it in, as well as Jeff. Jeff got 30 in that game, right. And I think sometimes nice drive and curl on the play, but I think sometimes people miss Jeff's contribution from a scoring standpoint in that particular contest because of that. This is the one this is the one he really shoots too quickly, and they get the ball and take a timeout here. Now they're going to travel on this inbounds play. They're going to throw the ball right there. Matt's going to rotate up, and they call traveling. And Matt realized he pulled the trigger too quickly, and now he's going to have the exact same shot again. And you're going to see him right in that same area, and he's going to shot fake a little bit, take one step, and knock the ball in. And Jeff's going to get a little screen for him here now, which is really significant. You see Matt curling underneath the basket, right there, bing, and takes that shot and knocks that doggone thing in.
Now, they still have a final shot, or not, they don't get the shot off.
No,
they have
don't.
A final chance at
it. Yeah,
it.
they back screen here for Marble. They're all American, and Gerard comes up with the ball and the doggone thing was over. It was significant, I think, for the entire university community because they had never beaten a Big Ten school in modern-day basketball. And so I thought it was neat for the kids. I thought it was neat for the university. And in fact, I just got a letter today from an ISU alum in Iowa City who just was delighted with the game, needless to say. And I forget what profession he's in right now, but he just couldn't say enough good things and was just so happy.
It was an amazing game. I had only the chance to listen to it until I actually put these highlights together. I never saw any of it. And the coach had said, we had trouble identifying the shooters, and that's where we got into trouble. I would have had trouble identifying the shooters because guys that normally did not take three-point shots were hitting them and taking them.
Well, now, there are three things that are significant. Number one, we're 16 down, and Ricky Jackson hits two three-pointers in a row. And sandwiched in between those two shots is a significant steal. So now all of a sudden the game goes from a 16-point deficit to a 10-point deficit. Well, that's significant. Secondly, they press you most of the time. And their press allows you the freedom to move your perimeter shooters around so that a lot of times you can just throw over the doggone thing and shoot the ball. I thought that was significant. The third thing is, now Matt has the unique basketball game, but because of the stress fracture, they really don't have a feel for Matt.
Right.
And he got into his rhythm and was scoring well. And like most shooters, if he's in a rhythm and he's shooting well, he has a chance to knock the ball in with some degree of regularity. But their press, as we studied the thing in preparation, clearly showed that they would allow you to take a lot of those shots. And I thought, well, if Matt can knock some in and Jeff can knock some in, now we can diffuse some of the things that they're able to do because of their size and strength down around the basket.
89-88 was the final score there. The Redbirds now 6-5 of the season. We'll come back and talk a little bit more on the season and the Valley Conference standings in just a minute. Out of the frying pan into the fire after playing Bradley and Peoria, the Redbirds have to take care of two other teams in the Missouri Valley Conference that are pretty tough. Tulsa comes into town, as well as followed by Wichita State. The Golden Hurricane, always a tough team, and play a brand of ball that can be pretty tough on just about anybody. That includes Redbirds.
Now, see, you bring up a very significant point in that as a conference, as a member of a conference, you can't get caught up in a particular win or a particular loss. You have to keep going. And I think that's significant. When you're an independent, you can maneuver and manipulate with your schedule a little bit so that you have some luxuries that you just are not readily available to you as a conference team. Tulsa is a very good basketball team. Tracy Moore is one of the outstanding perimeter players in this part of the country with the ability to score and score in so many different ways. We've seen him do it. They've got a youngster by the name of Royster who's a transfer who did a marvelous job for him last year. Their perimeter players are very good athletes. They're strong around the basket. It'll be a very difficult basketball game.
Do they press like they used to? They used to just love that trap press.
They will use it some, but they have mixed their defenses, and they use it some, but not as exclusively as they have some in the past. But most teams, Al, because of our deficiencies in the backcourt, just like the other night in Peoria, at some time or another are going to come at us on 94 feet.
Will they throw a number of types of defenses like zones and...
Yes, right. They've always done that, and he mixes his defenses up and tries to get you to lose a little bit of your rhythm or balance if you're in a rhythm.
As far as style goes, how do some of their players compare to maybe like Steve Harris coming out of there, or maybe the Riley brothers? Do they have big kids like that?
They're big, strong, good athletes. In fact, I think their overall team is a little bit more athletically oriented than it was a year ago. It's the same style of play, a lot of motion offense. They go to more a considerable amount of time, but they did last year. And it's a team that is good around the basket, that can score there. And then, of course, Moore being their dominant perimeter player, but their dominant offensive player that just creates so many problems for you on the perimeter as well as inside.
Tulsa Golden Hurricane in town on Friday for the Redbirds, and the following Monday it'll be Wichita State. We'll have highlights of both of those games on our next Coaches Show. Back with the final scene in just a minute. As we mentioned earlier, the Redbirds are 6-5, and not in small part due to the strength of the bench. Now, that is, and I've heard it all 11 games, a weakness of the team, but they've really come through when you needed them. And from a health standpoint, we've needed that as well.
Without question. In Peoria the other night, with Randy being sidelined with that injury to the ankle, it was paramount that we get mileage out of different youngsters. And the way that we play and our style, it just becomes critical that we get good mileage out of different kids. A nickel here, 3 cents here, that kind of thing. And if we're going to be successful, we've got to have that.
How is Matt Taphorn coming back from the stress fracture?
I think that the stress fracture from what I'm receiving, the input that I'm getting, is that it looks like we're out of the woods with that. Our major concern right now is getting Randy back to full strength, and if we can do that, then we're probably going to be about as healthy as we will be all year.
Those of you who have left Bloomington Normal still have an opportunity to watch Coach Donewald on this Coach's Show. If you have any questions or would like to make some comments on the show, feel free to write us a letter, drop us a line. You can write to us at 1202 West Division, and that's the Bob Donewald Show in care of Telecable of Bloomington Normal, 1202 West Division, and it's Normal, Illinois, 61761. Again, 1202 West Division, Normal, Illinois, 61761. Now, if you do write us a letter and we use it on the air, you will receive one of these Converse bags. They are a good size, and believe me, they are something that I myself would like to use, and you can use them on the road or any way that you see fit. Again, drop us a line. If we use your comment on the air, you'll receive one of those Converse bags. That's our Bob Donewald Show for this week. See you next week at the same time. After going 2-0 in the Valley with wins over Bradley University and Tulsa, the Redbirds dropped a home game to Wichita State. It was a close game at times against Wichita State, but for the most part, the Shockers dominated on the defensive end of the boards, or rather the defensive Redbird boards, and got time and time again got a number of shots against Illinois State, and we'll see those in the highlights. We also have player profile for you today, and the subject for today will be Jeff Harris, the three-point expert for Illinois State. And then after that, we'll show you highlights of the Tulsa win. All of that and comments from head coach Bob Donewald coming up in just a minute.
The goal is excellence. Those that are willing to meet the challenge are rare. But at Illinois State University, the commitment to excellence is strong, whether it's on the court or in the classroom. The Redbird Club is helping to meet that goal. The Redbird Club is committed to helping athletes excel in their game and in their studies. But we need your help. Whether you're an alumni or simply a Redbird fan, join the Redbird Club and be committed to excellence. Become a member and meet the challenge today.
And we're back with head coach Bob Donewald. The Redbirds came off of a loss to Wichita State Shockers. Pretty good team when you think about it. 7-5 record going into the game. That's somewhat deceiving, and I said this before the game, because they lost to Purdue in overtime. They also lost 2 other overtime games. Lost to Southwest Missouri State and Bradley on the road. So really a pretty good team.
Well, not only that, but their loss to Bradley, Al, if you reflect back upon it, Radunovich only plays 16 minutes because he goes down with an injury. Prelo just has a miserable evening. When we started the ball game off with a steal, I thought we might be in a pretty good position because I wanted to be aggressive with our play. But they came back last night, and although Greer played excellent basketball against Purdue, against Bradley, he played well against us last night. Radunovich, although not, I don't think quite at full strength, was much better, and Prelo had an excellent ball game. And as a result of that, then, I'd say that they were probably playing about as well as they have played. And they were quick, they were aggressive, they were assertive, and they created a lot of problems for
There
us.
was a scary moment right there. I showed that because Matt has had injury problems, and he turned his ankle, didn't step on anybody, just simply rolled over on it. And I was a little worried that he might have re-injured that stress fracture at the time.
No, yeah, I saw the ankle at the time, and I knew that exactly what it was. And of course, he's had a chronic problem with both of them, and has them actually very heavily taped and wrapped for every practice or any kind of physical activity. And that problem just isn't going to go away. We're just going to continue to have that problem as long as he plays basketball. But their defense was aggressive. I thought their defense took us out of a lot of things. They were able to get the ball off the boards. There's Grayer getting the ball back into the basket. That created problems. They were able to get to the free throw line much more than what we were, 23, I believe, to 9. It was just a difficult evening for us. We did not shoot the ball particularly well in the first half, although we shot the ball better in the second half. They shot the ball 50% in the first half and improved that to 60% in the second half.
Now, at this stage, it was 20-5. Made a good run at them at one stage in the game until you pulled within 4.
We got within 4, and then we had the ball, but we turned the ball over. And ironically enough, I said in the press conference last night, our turnovers were a more significant factor, even though we had less of them, simply because they converted our turnovers into baskets, and I don't think we were able to do that with theirs.
Well, you count the number of times they converted turnovers into baskets and their offensive rebounds into baskets. It's really hard to win with
that. And you get to the free throw line 23 times to 9, and you out-rebound your opponent 33 to 19. You put yourself in an incredible bind relative to trying to win a basketball game.
One of the things I thought they did particularly well on offense was they would back cut a lot. And although I thought we stopped it at times, we did get burned a couple of times.
We got burned a couple times, and we just didn't rotate over or recognize those situations nearly as well. And we were aware of it. We just didn't handle it as well as what we should have.
Because of their quickness, when we're on defense, we seem to have a hard time not only staying with them, but they seem to put us in the positions where we have to make quick decisions. The Redbirds know it's coming up ahead of time, and just from watching the highlight tapes and what you guys were putting together, I saw a couple of things that you could see them coming ahead of time, but we just couldn't react to them.
No, I thought we were about a half a count or a half a step behind, and I think that's symptomatic of how the whole game went. But by the same token, I think it's to their credit in that they were just a little bit sharper, a little bit quicker, and were able to create more problems. But you've got Hill out on the floor, you've got Grayer out on the floor, you've got Griffin out on the floor, you've got really good athletes. That was a big basket right there by Grayer, putting them back up 7 when we were down 4. And as a result of that, Cooper, 14, was another very good athlete. They just had more good athletes out on the floor who played well.
We're not really surprised, though, because going into the season, Bradley was picked to finish 1, and Wichita State picked to finish number 2. So we kind of expected something like this.
You know, Al, the interesting thing about this entire basketball team of Wichita's, with the exception of Cooper now, these kids were all there during Smithson's last year. So this is their...
That will show you highlights of the Tulsa win. All of that and comments from head coach Bob Donewald coming up in just a minute.